A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. This is a bit of an impromptu video because I have other videos I should be editing right now, including one that my mom and I, a two-parter my mom and I did together. But I just felt the whim to go ahead and record this, put this up, so that way then I have that there while I'm finishing up the editing that I need to do for mom and my videos. But this video is, for the most part, a book review. I've been in a bit of a reading slump. I really didn't get a lot of reading done last month. I think I only finished 3 books, which is quite low for me. I might have finished 4. I just have been in a slump, and I decided that I needed to read something at the beginning of this month to kind of get me going again. I think it's because I've been reading so many big books, and I've just not really met, So I was like, well, let me pick up something that's kind of quick and easy, and then to really get me back into the reading mood again. So initially, I had purchased a book because it had been recommended to me by someone that I know through some of the religious stuff that we do. So I know her in real life, but not very well. But anyway, she recommended a book. It's a romance, which really isn't kind of my thing, the more modern ones. But she had recommended it, and the main character happens to have POTS. And I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. I mean, she seemed to like it. She recommended it on Goodreads. So I went ahead and picked it up. And I'm not really sure I'm going to finish this. It's, in my opinion, not very well written. Kind of supports my view that there's a lot of books now that kind of feel like blog posts. I don't like that each chapter you have a different main character leading, and it's all in first person. I find that confusing. Stick to one person's point of view, or do third person and do the point of view within the text. I know that, I forget what that's called. Anyway, but yeah, I don't care for having the first person and then switching back and forth first person. And right now I just kind of feel like I don't care about the characters, which is sad. I put this with my mom. I could put down this book and not care whether or not the main characters end up together. And I'm up to chapter 12. I finished this much so far, and maybe I'll give it a little bit more of a chance, but I simply don't care that much about the characters. Which is sad, because you're dealing with some very interesting topics that theoretically should make these characters more interesting. You're dealing with depression related to grief, and you're dealing with the coping with the condition like POTS in a school setting. So there's particularly the latter, that you're dealing with things that, even though I didn't do it in a school setting, I did in a work setting, I can recognize that these are concepts, and even some of the things that the character says about it makes sense to me, but the character themselves just kind of feel like empty vessels to me. They're just not that engaging, in spite of having what should be some pretty interesting things to make them more appealing, more easy to attach to. And maybe I just wasn't in the mood for this. Maybe I need to come back to it later. But thus far, I'm just not terribly impressed by this. I don't care for the over-reliance on more modern kind of slang where you're talking about, using the terms like someone being a Karen or some of these other things that's really just like kind of terminally online kind of stuff. And for one thing, I don't think this will age very well because of that. And it also just, like I said, it feels like a blog post. I just have trouble taking it seriously. And I know you shouldn't necessarily have to take everything you read seriously, but it's dull, in my opinion. Perhaps I just am not giving it a fair shake. I tried to. I'll set it aside, maybe come back to it later, but it's definitely not my preference. It seems to encapsulate a lot of my issue with what kind of gets churned out, like some more of the things that get churned out more recently, I guess, like just kind of the things that are popular but not have much in the way of good writing or depth. It feels very different than the book I'm working on a dual review video for, where that was also independently published and published recently, but that had character depth, had interesting things going on. This just doesn't, it pales in comparison. And that book is called Just Stab Me Now, and I will be, like I said, I'm editing 2 videos on it right now. So I put this aside because I just didn't care to continue. And instead, I was looking at my shelves and I was like, oh, hey, I'll grab that one. And this is an old-time favorite. I haven't read it since school, though. And I mean, like, maybe high school. Probably, at least, I don't think it was any earlier than 12. But Lilies of the Field. And what a classic book. It has everything that I was, I think, yearning for and that wasn't getting satisfied in the chemistry test. It has a style that I feel is engaging, with turns of phrase that make me happy and characterizations that are deep, and a compelling story. So, and I'm wondering also, it does seem like in this book, for example, the characters are fairly passive. Things are happening to the characters. In this book, the characters are active participants in the story. So maybe that has something to do with it too. So, for example, just some turns of phrase that kind of caught my attention. Homer felt antagonism stir in him, but it was a fine day, and he was carrying the day in his spirit. And I know there were others. Let's see. Another example is, he sang softly as he drove, and his car was a spinning reel on which the road wound up. And that's just only a couple. There are ones that I forgot to mark. But that just sort of, the imagery is apt and just really, I don't know, kind of sings to me. I like well-written books, and there's a world of difference between the way Lilies of the Field is written and the way Chemistry Test is written. Now, I'm sure it could be argued that maybe it isn't fair comparing a classic to Chemistry Test, but I kind of feel like, why not? Why shouldn't we expect better of our books? Why shouldn't we expect people to write like they did when this book was written. When was this book written? This book was in 1962. Why can't we expect this? Why should we settle for less? Why should anyone feel like they're reading a blog post while reading a book? Why shouldn't we get clever turns of phrase and compelling stories and things that when just reading the narrative voice just makes you go, yeah, no, that's an amazing way of saying that. Turn of phrase just sort of sings to my soul. Why can't we? Why? I don't think that it's unfair to expect, whether or not it's independently published, to expect better. To not just go, oh, it's a more modern book. What can you expect? You can't expect it to be classic. No. Things become classics. They aren't born classics. They become classics later because they're great. Why should we not expect great? There's too many great books out there to waste time with books that don't measure up to the standard. And this is a small book, a short book, but I would read a book like this 1,000 times over before, even if I was to finish this book, I'd never pick it up again. It does not have the spark that is put in to Lilies of the Field. And I can see why, as a kid, this book drew me in. Why, when I watched the movie, even though the movie is very good, why I was disappointed the first time I saw the movie. Because there were differences, including a combining of two characters, which really didn't make any sense. A character who never changes at the end of this book was combined with a character who actually ended up being someone helpful to Homer Smith. It was really an odd two characters to choose to combine, and the character that they created out of the two looked nothing like the two characters, who were both smaller men, and they chose like this big guy to play both of them, not like a bulky guy, like kind of a fat guy. It was just an odd casting choice, an odd decision to combine two characters who were very much unlike each other, and created a character like it just didn't make sense the way the movie chose to combine those characters. But it gets the movie gets the feeling of the book. It's not as good as the book, though. If you like the movie, I would highly recommend this. This is amazing. The way it makes me feel about the narrative voice reminds me of how To Kill a Mockingbird made me feel when I was reading, where the way things were worded made me just happy because they were worded so aptly and so well. I also like things in here that I didn't remember because I was a kid and it was a long time ago, but things about what the goal was of the nuns who were coming out here. Oh wait, here's another one I did tag because I liked this turn of phrase. He was in a high, exalted mood, flying the flags of rebellion against authority. No one attempted to stop him, and he took the 5 cans of soup out of his locker, a can of peaches, a can opener. He saw Mother Maria Martha bearing down on him as he started back to the house, and his flags drooped on the flagstaff. He pretended that he did not see her and lengthened his stride. I just love that. The use of metaphor there just kind of, I don't know, it's really nice. And the author makes you see what the environment's like without being bogged down in the details. You can feel the roughness of the area and the sparseness of what... Yeah, it's not just rough, it's sparse. He does a very good job of conveying that. But as I was saying about what brought them there, I had forgotten that what their main goal was. And I'm trying to find where it is said, it must be a little bit later. Hold on. Okay. I'd forgotten that what she wanted to do was, or what the nun's goal was, to start a place here, ultimately for poor boys from the city, Spanish-speaking boys who get into trouble. No one is interested in them. They could work and learn and be happier in the country than in the city. No one will believe that until she proves it. And what was interesting to me, first of all, there's that aspect, and then they brought out the fact that I'd also forgotten that they had escaped from Germany. They were from the wrong Germany, the one that is communist, and they escaped. And also the fact that they could speak good Spanish, but nobody listens. There's no reason for it. They were strangers in a strange land and were almost, they were as isolated as could be with no necessity of it, because they could speak Spanish and the people in the area could speak Spanish, but they chose not to be helpful. They chose not to interact with them, to make them feel like they had to do it without any assistance, that the only person who was available to help them was a wandering black man who just got a whim to give them a hand. A man who wasn't even Catholic, who was Baptist. But yeah, there's multiple places here that I have tagged, just not only because of the turn of phrase, but things that, the one over here. This was something that they could understand. A stranger named Schmidt. Their smiles made him welcome, and Homer felt immediately at ease with them. They did not have any color line. He was just people to them. I read this over the past few hours. I mean, like I said, it's a short book. I probably started around 10 and finished a little after midnight. And the only reason why there was a slight pause in there was because what was I even doing? I think I read it pretty straight through. Because I was reading on the exercise bike as well after I got started reading. I didn't realize I wanted to get on the bike. But yeah, no, this is a really quick read, a really enjoyable read. It really sparked what I was looking for, which was just a kind of like a thorough enjoyment. I was feeling dry. I was feeling a little bit of difficulty being inspired to read. And this definitely, it definitely reminded me of why it is considered a classic. I don't know how many people read this in school as well, but if you haven't read it before, I recommend it. The movie also is very good, even if it does get some details wrong. You have Sidney Poitier playing Homer Smith. Now he is, I think, possibly on the older end to be playing Homer Smith, although that was, I think, earlier in his career. It's been a while since I've watched it, but the character's 24 in this when you meet him. I felt like tearing up at the last line of this. Honestly, the whole last chapter is beautiful, but thoroughly enjoy this book. Gave it 5 stars. Will absolutely read it again. I can't believe it's taken me so long to reread it. Literally decades. I don't even have my original school book with it. I think that's probably what happened, is I lost the book, and in my head I probably associated it with being a kid's book, and it's not really a kid's book at all. It's just a good book. So, yeah. Oh, what's the basic idea for those who are not familiar with it? Well, the best thing I can do is read you the short little summary on the back. Schmidt, Mother Maria Marth said. We build a chapel, I show you. She reached into her pocket and produced a sketch on a piece of coarse wrapping paper. It was a good sketch of a small church. Who built it? Homer asked. The nun's eyes drilled into him. If you think that I'm building that, you're out of your mind, he said. Homer Smith a black ex-GI, was a carefree man living the life of the open road until he met a group of German-speaking nuns with a dream. So, really great book on which a really good movie is based. So, can't more highly recommend. I think that we should demand things of a higher quality from our reading, that we shouldn't settle for things that feel flat, that feel blah. I don't mean that there can't be a relaxing read, but I feel that part of the joys of reading is the way it's written too. It's not merely about being highbrow or about being snooty. It's about the enjoyment of the actual work. I don't find a work that is written like a blog post to be enjoyable. I don't find it engaging. It doesn't make my heart sing. What makes me feel joy, what makes me engage, is a book that is well written with clever turns of phrase, which just is something more. I don't know why standards dropped. Is it our education system? What is it? Why are we accepting so much less in our reading? I know there are people that enjoy the other kinds of books, and perhaps I'm too hard on them. But for myself, I am probably going to remain demanding a higher level of art in my books. And I mean, I'm not talking about it has to be fine literature, but I think that it should be engaging. I think that it should be well written. I think that it should have something to it. So, yes, that is my TED Talk. Read Lilies of the Field. I don't think that you'll regret it. God bless. Have a great day. Bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.